fall, we were asked by the Frist Center if we would be a partner in their extrasensory program. And that was really to help find individuals to participate in the workshops or find artists to lead the workshops that they did all spring. And those workshops were to lead into the Nick Cave exhibit. And then they were talking about the opening of the exhibit and what they could do for that. And while we were sitting there, I asked if it would be all right to have our dancers come, because one of the thoughts that came across my mind was the fact that Nick Cave's sound suits are used in dance production. And I said, wouldn't it be kind of neat to have some dancers come and dance?
Ready? As soon as Adam gets to his spot. Ready? Turn your lights on. I am the artistic director for the dancers. So I'm here just supporting, just making sure all's going well and they're comfortable, because they won't tell everybody that if they're not comfortable, but they'll tell me if they're not comfortable. I have been with these kids, some of them like 5.5 years. We started back when I was at MTSU and did a 6-week project, and 5.5 years later, we're still literally, how many do I have? 1, 2, I have 4 original members from the 11 that were in that project.
And I said, well, we have a group that does visual arts. Wouldn't it be kind of neat if our visual arts group made the costumes that our dance group, the Movement Connection, would wear and perform?
Lori found out about this project and she said, well, since you did that, why don't you do this? I was like, okay. So that's how I got into it. I was a theater major, so I can make it look good, not always so sturdy. So, but my mother is a seamstress. So when I knew that we had to have a basic costume, I went to her and asked, she lives in Alabama, and I asked her if she would help me, and she graciously agreed. So one weekend, my daughter and I drove down to Alabama and we spent the weekend making costumes. So we got just the basic part done. And then we came back and I was assigned to work with the Teapot Diplomats, which there are 3, Hope and Tori and Austin. And they then started to come to my house, and we would work on the costume. Every week they would come, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week.
And then, thinking of young soloists, thought, wouldn't it be nice if our young soloist musicians provided the music rather than it being to just taped music?
I work at the Nashville Symphony in Education and Community Engagement, and I help with our after-school program, which often involves a drum circle. So when Lori reached out to us about doing a collaboration with the ballet and having a group of music students perform with the dancers, I was the one who got recruited for coaching the percussion ensemble.
So when we decided to do all of that, we thought, well, it might be nice to make this even a little bit more of a partnership and give some of our participants exposure to groups they're not normally exposed to. So I approached the Nashville Ballet to see if they would work with our dancers, and the Nashville Symphony to see if they would work with our young soloists. Both groups were willing to do that, and then it always comes down to money. So I wrote a grant to the Tennessee Arts Commission, and it was approved. So starting this last summer, the Nashville Ballet and the Nashville Symphony have been working with our dancers and with our musicians to pull all of this together. Nick Cave creates what he calls sound suits, and these are large body costumes that covers the entire body, because his idea is to not look at what's on the outside of the person, but what's on the inside. So if you can't see the person, you have to be focused on what's on the inside. And so these are elaborate costumes, and then he creates dances around that, which is what we've done. These are costumes to where you really can't tell a shape of a body or a color of a body. It is covering the entire body of the individuals. Also, Nick Cave, his exhibit that's here is based around the 5 senses. So our particular costumes do deal with elements of the 5 senses. So for smell, you may see a lot of flowers attached. Or for hearing, you may see a costume that has things that can clank around and make different noises to it. So the costumes are connected to the 5 senses, which is part of the Nick Cave exhibit here.
When we started this, we were actually going to be opening the exhibit for him, but they've changed it a little bit. So we're still It's more inspired by Nick Cave now, and he does a lot of the senses, touch, feel, smell. Yay! Good job! So, okay, let's turn our lights off, please. What do you guys think? It's not so bad to have those on, right?
No.
It was kind of okay, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just the smell your feet part, but that's fine, right? We can get through it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so what do you guys think? Do we feel good? How do you guys feel?
Yeah, feeling good.
Feeling pretty good. Doing a lot better? That's good. That's what practice is for, huh?
Yeah.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling very awesome.
Very awesome. Awesome. I mean, I feel good. You feel good?
Yeah, I think we're doing well.
Yeah, I think so
We're
too.
just doing fine. It's just a very, very, very awesome time here. It was about music that we've grown up with. It's just where we all always have started in a long time, and it's very, very, it's very special music. It's special. God created us to help us to be special.
And play music, huh?
Play music as well in our hearts.
Yeah. And we get to dance to music all the time, huh? That was very inspirational, Drew.
It was true.
Then we have Dee Kimbrell doing all the costumes, which really were, she came and measured them and then made all of them, and we're making some improvements on them because a few things, but you never know. This has really been, it's taking an army to do this. But opening exhibit at the Frist is not something that everyone gets the opportunity to do. He started as an artist just using recycled products that he found on the ground. It was garbage. And he does sound suits. So you'll see that almost all of our suits, except for basically 2 of them, actually make noise. So we just took the senses, and that's our inspiration for Nick Cave, is the 5 senses.
The costumes have been amazing.
I went to Turnip Green Creative Reuse, so that it was all reused materials, and bought the stuff from them. And I had lots of plastic fruit all over my house, like this. And they would lay out, I'd hold out set out the materials, and then they would design how they thought that it would be best to go. And then we would collaborate. If I thought, oh, that might not work, I'd try to suggest something else. But they came up with almost all the designs. And then, of course, the hot glue they couldn't glue, but me and some of the moms, then we have the blisters to prove it. We glued the stuff on, and sewed on. I did measure before, but of course, it's 7, 8 people, 9 people with all different body shapes and types, and we went with the pattern that was the small, and so then we just kind of geared it up for a couple and geared it down for some others. So, with the masks and the heart plates, they were inspired by a book that I had at home. It's called Natural Beauty, and it's a book about a tribe in Africa that hasn't had a lot of contact with the outside world, and so they decorate themselves with mud and sticks and twigs and stuff, and for their mating rituals. And so they're just beautiful photographs. So that's where they got the ideas for the masks. But because the dancers weren't comfortable wearing masks, then we decided we would use face paint and just paint them like that.
This has been a true labor of love, and it was certainly a lot more than I know our teaching artist took on. She took on a 2-weekend project that turned out to be over a year in length of every week working on these projects. But they're wonderful. They're absolutely beautiful.
Bella girl, can you come see Kat's cousin? She can do your makeup for you.
social issues aspects. I've been working on it. So.
When I contacted the Nashville Symphony, they first were talking about possibly getting one of the symphonic musicians, but Kristen has a background in percussion and she is in their education department.
What's been really impressive is that none of them are percussionists. So there's been a little bit of a learning curve, but from the very first rehearsal to our rehearsal last week with the dancers, they've come a really long way. It's obvious that they've been spending time with their parts and practicing on their own, and they're a great group of students to work with.
One of the reasons why we were really interested in using Kristen is because being in arts education, she knew how to adapt a lesson plan to individuals who didn't necessarily play that instrument. And our young soloists that wanted to participate, they aren't percussionists. We had 2 pianists and 2 vocalists. And although they knew something about music, some could not even read music. Most do, but some don't, and none of them read percussion music.
They're very talented. When we come together, they're very teachable, they're very flexible.
So Kristen had to take what they knew about music and now make them percussionists and now have them play behind dancers. All completely new experiences for these young musicians.
They've been a real joy to work with.
When I contacted the Nashville Ballet, they said that they had a particular dancer that they thought would be excellent in working with individuals with Down syndrome, although he had never done that before. And he went in and the dancers loved him and he loved doing it. In fact, he's even said that he would be willing to serve as a fill-in if Danielle can't do it at some point. So he came in and was choreographing the dance to the music that the Nashville Symphony picked out.
Like open your legs super wide. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's when you're like super strong. You have to open your legs wide.
So today is when it all comes together.
How are y'all doing? Have you had a good day here at the Frist Center? Fantastic. We're so glad you are here for our free family festival celebrating Nick Cave. And we've got this amazing performance to share with you. Listen, move, imagine. So before we do that though, I just want to do a couple of acknowledgments to thank some folks because it takes a lot of people to put this together, and especially putting today together was Samantha Andrews, who just like dove to the fat. Where is she? She's right there. So she has a cast supporting her, but she's our fearless leader in for today. The other thing, we are celebrating Nick Cave, which is an amazing work upstairs. It's called Feat, right? Which kind of means featuring. So we are going to be featuring some performers, featuring Nick Cave upstairs. We're also featuring our exhibition Extrasensory. And that was a community arts project that we had support and participation with through Empower Tennessee, Tennessee Disabilities Coalition, and VSA Tennessee, the state organization for arts and disability, which is now known as Borderless Arts. So, but they helped us do that. We had over 900 people in the community help make the art in that community artwork gallery. If you helped, raise your hand. You may be here. Yay, because some people are here. Thank you. That is great. So we are so grateful for your participation. We had some great teaching artists help us, and they were amazing. Maria Borgdorf, Dee Kimbrell, Amber Lilly, Beth Rittmeyer, and the Sue Taj. So we are so grateful for that. Tonight and today, though, right now, we've got the VSA Tennessee Movement Connection Dance Program under the direction of Danielle Clement, who's going to be presenting a work inspired by Nick Cave. We've got some amazing musicians over here, the VSA Tennessee Young Soloists. We've got Drew Basham, Sarah Franklin, Allie Hemming, Tyler Samuel, and Gregory Price Stallings under the artistic direction of Kristen Freeman from the Nashville Symphony. And so we're going to see in just a second here the VSA Tennessee Movement Connection dancers. The choreographer is by Shabazz from the Nashville Ballet. Costumes by VSA Tennessee Teapot Diplomats, Austin King, Hope McKee, and Tori Summers under the artistic direction of Dee Kimbrell. So, and we want to thank especially the Tennessee Arts Commission for funding this specific performance, and the Frist Center for the Visual Arts would like to thank Metro Nashville Arts Commission, the Tennessee Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts for their ongoing support for our programs and our exhibition. So without further delay, listen, move, imagine.